One.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Bitcoin 15. I am your host, Peter Beckstrand. Alongside of me, as always, is my co-host, Peter Christensen.
What's up?
In this week's episode, we discuss the U.S. being behind the curve, the ECB saying that inflation prices are just one-off events, and Bloomberg has Bitcoin at 400K prediction by 2021. But first, let's talk about it. Bitcoin over 60K. You doubted us, but now we're here. We're not here anymore, but we were here. What are your thoughts?
Well, we said by the next time we record, we'll be over 60K. I think for the second straight week in a row, maybe even 3 weeks in a row, it keeps going over 60K and then dies.
Coming back down just a little bit.
There's must be a lot of people out there with, I don't know if they're doing limit order sales or if they just have it in their head that whenever it goes over 60, they want to sell some off. That's their price target. And then other people plan to buy whenever it dips down into the mid 50s, low 50s, because they think that's their dip. I don't know. It's crazy. I've seen a lot of analysis saying it's similar to when Bitcoin was just holding around 11,000 a lot near the end of last year in the fall before we started this bull run really going crazy. So, and then there was kind of another one right under 20 for a while, and then it just shot forward. And the one before 20 was the one that I thought really was like, it went from 20 to somewhere around 40 really fast.
Like doubled in only a couple days.
So
like less than a month.
We don't know for sure how quickly things could move here once we finally break through the 60,000 mark, like strongly, but just reason to believe that we're building up a base. That floor keeps rising. But anyhow, let's get into some of the stories. I think first one, 2 weeks ago, we talked about Ray Dalio thinks that the US government will ban Bitcoin, and that's one of the things holding him back, why he's not big bullish on Bitcoin. And this week, the SEC commissioner, I believe it's a woman, I'm not sure of her name, but saying there's basically no way to ban it. So there's no point in trying. It'd be like banning the internet, I believe is what she said. So sorry, Ray, I think you're gonna have to take back your critique there and reconsider your position. You may still not be into it, but I think his larger point was that as Bitcoin becomes a larger threat to the dollar, that's when they'll try to ban it. And maybe the SEC still isn't, and the federal government doesn't see Bitcoin as a threat yet to the dollar. And so Ray's probably say just wait and see. But for the time being, the U.S. government has no plans to ban it. So We'll take that as good news, even though we've said maybe a ban could be good as well. So we think Bitcoin wins either way. But
yeah, well, it reminds me of the guy's, his name is still in my memory at the moment, when Michael Saylor had his conference in February, and he had one of his buddies who was a asset manager at, forgetting the name of that place too, like Red Rock or something along those lines, and he talked about BlackRock, that's what it was. And he talked about I think it was BlackRock. Regardless, the guy, people ask him, well, what if it gets banned, or what if it goes back down to zero? And I think we made the analogy. He said, well, like, what's the likelihood of Christianity just ceasing to exist across the world? And he's like, cat's out of the bag. You can't really, it won't go back down to zero, even if you try to ban it. If you try to do all these different things, it's too well known.
You're making it sound like a religion again.
Well, maybe we'll get people to click in and comment, but that just like sparked my memory after hearing what she had to say about banning. You can't ban the internet. That's maybe a better analogy, but I know we talked about in the past, and we always like to bring up things we've talked in the past and saying like, we told you so, or you heard it here first.
And you mentioned in your Tony Kornheiser intro that it's the U.S. behind the curve, and the SEC commissioner was referring specifically we're behind the curve in regulation, which
Mhm.
we talked about states proposing these laws, and I think she's saying maybe we can look forward to seeing something in 2021 about the feds finally putting some laws on the books addressing cryptocurrencies as an asset and how they'll be taxed, all that stuff. We said then the feds need to make this clear. As much as we like there being specific Bitcoin friendly states, you know, there's, for the most part, America is kind of homogenous in how we expect the laws to be. So it would make sense if the feds came up with a rule for that, because some people live in multiple states. You know, I guess you can only have residency in one state, but people move across state lines. In fact, a lot of that's happening in 2021. So it'd be nice to know, you know, if you take your crypto assets with you across state lines, which is kind of weird to think about because it's digital, but how you could be affected moving from state to state with the different regulations. It'd be nice if there was federal regulation that was consistent. So
Yeah,
I think
bold prediction. What gets passed first, regulation of Bitcoin or the decriminalization, legalization of marijuana in the U.S.?
federally, at the federal level, you're saying that?
Yeah,
Hmm.
Bitcoin, you'd think, huh?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, actually, yeah, that should be an easy one, actually, because the
There's too much
feds,
money. Even though there's plenty of money in the marijuana business, like there's too much.
well, at this point, the federal stuff doesn't seem to be bothering the states that are legalizing. Now we're getting into a different topic, but
Yeah,
um,
that
you could,
kind of just popped in my head as you're talking about states kind of doing their own thing, but we
yeah,
like to have the federal. So it'd be interesting to see what happens over the next year, and we'll obviously look back, because I'm sure this is going to blow up on the internet now, with these bold statements and whatnot. But yeah, you're right. There needs
we're
to be
bit,
some kind
we're
of
bit,
regulation.
we're going to be known as
Unfortunately,
Bitcoin oracles, and people will be looking back. We're going to be like Nostradamuses of our time.
that's how I feel.
Why don't you
What
introduce the
about the
second
ECB?
story? Yeah, oh, you're ahead of
Yeah,
me.
yeah, the ECB, the European Central Bank. Well, we saw through a series of tweets by Isabel Schnabel, maybe
Schnabel,
Schnabel, German name it sounds like, and where they're
probably.
talking about the rise or the inflation rate kind of being side effects of one-off events like the pandemic, the Suez Canal, different things like that, and not really just saying it is kind of what it is. Oh, just printing more money and putting that in circulation. I know you had a little bit of on a pre-call, a little bit better of a definition or grasp of this article. So I might lean on you for it, but do we kind of sum it up there? It's almost
No,
like sticking their head in the sand, like you said, and
you
go ahead.
you summed up my understanding of it, that their take on it, they seem to be convinced that the little bit of inflation we're seeing has nothing to do, you know, they don't think it has anything to do with them introducing more money into circulation, the debasement of their currency. They're not buying that. They're convinced prices have just gone up on certain things because of those one-off events, like you mentioned, pandemic, Suez Canal. Who knows? It's crazy to think one ship could have. I don't want to downplay that though, because to screw up blocking off that major of a waterway, how many ships would have gone through there in that time, how much that could really mess up supply chains,
Yeah,
which then in turn affects prices. So those are obviously going to affect things, but throughout the pandemic, governments are putting dollars in citizens' hands constantly, or businesses' hands too. It's like corporate welfare, and in addition to, you know, welfare for citizens almost. You want to call it UBI, welfare, helicopter money, whatever you want to call it. It takes printing a lot of money out of thin air, because they're not taking in more tax revenue to give it to everyone. And so this is maybe a little off topic, but so I saw a tweet on Twitter once that I had to give a like because I thought it was brilliant. It's like, you know, if if the government can just print money to give to us,
Yeah.
to pay for all this stuff, or because they want to stimulate the economy and keep people afloat, why do we have to pay taxes at all?
Yeah, I saw that one too.
Why can't the government just print to pay for Biden's big infrastructure thing on its way? And man, I am struggling to not make this a political show, but it's Bitcoin is, it's not political in that it's for the right or for the left. It's about government versus the people. So if that's a political stance, then maybe you're not a fan of this show. But like if the government can just print to pay for whatever it needs to, why
stop there?
Yeah, they can do it to pay for wars. They can do it for pay for Biden's infrastructure plan. They can do it for foreign aid, whatever. Do it. Then why do we have to pay taxes at all? If it's a thought experiment to think, well, you have to at some point realize that, well, yeah, if you print endlessly, you become Weimar Germany and your dollar is worthless. Well, if you can do that math, then maybe we shouldn't be doing this at all. Then it's like, a certain amount of it's okay, and 2% inflation's okay.
Yeah,
I don't know. It makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. So
yeah.
But let's get to the fun stuff here. Let's talk about stay away from the politics. Yeah, the predictions. What do you got?
Well, Bloomberg, not the presidential hopeful and for the DNC party of 20.
Well, I think that is his publication though.
Yeah, it is his publication. They came with a report by 2021. Bitcoin will be at 400K because we're kind of just starting this bullish run. My son just walked. And I would love to see it. And I know that we talked about it too. Some of the different indicators that they have, stock to flow models, the gold, Bitcoin versus gold. I mean, it's just some of the models that they had there. Just the endless possibility, basically, of, hey, we're at the earliest stages of this bull run. These are the indicators that we're seeing. And Plan B, like we talked about before, too, didn't have these bullish numbers. But I hope it comes true. I mean, Jessica Rayworth on Twitter says we're going to be at 100K by May 1st.
May 1st.
So, like, we only got 40K to go in 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
And we haven't seen her model specifically, but we have
seen her model.
We do know that she is very, very smart.
She is very smart. She has over 1,000. She has over 1,000 followers. So
she must be right. No. So anyhow, don't take that to the bank. Definitely don't take that to the bank. I think so. I think what is Bloomberg basing this off of? What I saw in the article that they're basing off of is obviously looking to past halving cycles, past bull runs within halving cycles. 2017 is our most recent one. Then there was 2013. Those are the two that we look back to. And they're saying in comparison to those, were some of the signals are even stronger, that it's a stronger bull run than in the past. That's why. I also think, though, that Bloomberg probably recognizes that just because it may hit 400K doesn't mean that that's a sustainable number. And perhaps I think no one makes a better case than Plan B with the stock to flow model. So it's possible that 288K is maybe that's going to be kind of the.
I'm almost done with this show, and then we can play. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's right. It might top out at 400, and then Plan B stock to flow model of 2 to 288 or something.
I think the long term, when it goes flat for that portion of the halving cycle, like we've seen in past halving cycles, the average will probably be around the 288K. But I do think it'll probably spike above 400. Well, I don't know if it for sure will. That's what I'm optimistic for. But that's what the most evidence points to. I think Bloomberg they're comparing to some other stuff too about how many people are holding currently and how long they've been holding on to it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we're a little distracted right now, so I'm not collecting my thoughts as best as I can. But this has turned into kind of an inside joke episode, anyhow.
Yeah. Well, if it does get to 400K, I mean, Satoshi's got to be the world's the richest man in the world, right?
I think so. Well, because he's already what 20th right now.
20th
I think
right now. Yeah.
So yeah. So what's roughly 40K? That's almost 7x where we are right now, and he's 20. So we there's some really rich dudes out there, but I mean Tesla's stock. I mean, because Elon was the richest for a little bit there. I don't know if he still is, but Tesla's so volatile that he goes from being richest or not pretty frequently there. So these other guys, they're dependent on the price of like Bezos. It's still mostly Amazon stock. That's not so volatile, but yeah, I think will Satoshi finally reveal himself if he's the richest man in the world? That's or richest person in the world, I should say. We don't know if Satoshi could be a woman. Stay woke.
Could be anything.
Could be Jesus Christ himself.
Could be a they. Could be.
All right, we better wrap, huh?
Could be anything. All right, yeah. I gotta do some stuff here with these kids. So.
Yeah. For those of you out there, please like, subscribe, tell your friends about the show. Don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged that we're still hanging out in the 50s. The bull run will get back on track and spring forward stronger than ever very soon.
Yeah, we'll be back, and we'll once Jessica's right, May 1st, and we're at 100K. Then we'll have a lot of interesting things to talk about. 2 of them primarily, but then after that, we'll have a lot more things to talk about.
Yeah, too bad I'm blocked. Okay. All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Good night, Canada.